Welcome to Mastering Fundraising, a podcast for nonprofit leaders of all titles and all experience levels. Mastering fundraising endeavors to cover the most important fundraising topics with the goal of helping the audience reach their full potential as fundraisers. This podcast will share stories, tips, and guidance on the most important elements of fundraising. If you want to earn an advanced degree in fundraising, this is the podcast for you. Mastering Fundraising is a collaboration between Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership and the 5-Tool Fundraiser, two leaders in providing relevant and expert content to fundraisers and nonprofit leaders. Without further delay, let's jump into the current episode. Please join me in welcoming your host for today, Chris Looney.
Welcome to the Mastering Fundraising podcast, where we explore the strategies, leadership mindsets, and donor-centered practices that drive sustainable philanthropy and long-term impact. This podcast is for nonprofit leaders, fundraisers, and board members who want to think differently about generosity, relationships, and the future of their organizations. Today's conversation centers on a powerful and timely idea, the concept of plannual giving. If that doesn't make sense to you at all, don't worry, it will. Stick with us. This is the intentional integration of annual giving and planned or asset-based giving, rooted in the belief that generosity, consistency, and loyalty today often become legacy gifts tomorrow. I'm delighted to welcome today's guest, Ray Watts, Interim Vice President for Advancement at the California State University, San Bernardino. Ray is widely known as an evangelist for planned giving, but more importantly, frames this work as a celebration of asset-based philanthropy and a deeply donor-centered approach to fundraising. Ray has spent his career helping organizations connect the dots between annual donors, leadership giving, and long-term legacy impact. We've been friends and colleagues and all of that for a long time. Super excited to have you, Ray. Welcome to the show. We're excited to learn from you today.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate it very much. It's an honor to be here. And thanks for calling us the CSUSB. I like that. I'm going to start using that more often.
Yeah. I mean, we can't let the Ohio State have all the fun. No offense, Mike Iger out there, but listen, this is something that other institutions deserve to share.
I love it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Welcome. So before we dive into plannual giving, I'd love to start with a conversation about your leadership journey. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you've become the leader you are today and what experiences have most shaped how you lead?
Yeah, thanks, Chris. It's interesting as we were thinking about doing this conversation, and like if I asked you the same question, you think about a lot of people in your life and your journey that you've interfaced with, and so I was doing the same thing, thinking about from being a young professional. I mean, starting off at LMU, being a young first generation college student, son of a plumber and factory worker, and tossed into this world of higher education, and then now 30 plus years later in the work I'm doing, it's a lot of wonderful people, some with us, some no longer with us, and I think about, I'm trying to replicate things I've seen from leaders that have really made me feel good and honored and cared for. Mm-hmm. And frankly, sometimes I'm not doing things that didn't make me feel that way from leaders, either to me directly or that I've observed. Right. I've taught some in this space as well, and you and I have talked a lot about leadership study and thoughts, and so I really take this seriously in terms of, what a leader is versus even what a manager is, and try to make sure I know I'm doing one at a time or specifically what I'm intentionally coming after. But yeah, it's fun to think about this from the perspective of the people I've worked with for a long time and trying to be the best version of a leader here and in my life from what I've seen from others in my network.
Yeah, that's great. And across your career, I'd love to know what has been your favorite role in nonprofit or advancement leadership. Not the title, but what have you done? What do you like doing the most in this leadership world?
Well, my path, as you know, has been in the philanthropic side of the house. So, being a long time associate VP for development, Redlands and Claremont McKenna, and then when I came here first, and with an eye toward the vice president's chair. Obviously, I've been, I think, for a long time thinking that way. But there were some doubts in the head before I got the seat, and I'm like, well, will I like it? Will I be good
Mm.
at it? Frankly. And honestly, it's been wonderful. My dear friend Robert Nava retired from CSUSB in the summer, and I had the chance to serve in this role since he left, and it really has been wonderful, fun, interesting. I mean, I'm still a fundraiser. We'll talk more about,
Yeah.
plan giving. I mentioned being an evangelist for plan giving. I mean, I feel that way. We'll talk more about that, but I'm still a fundraiser. But the fundraising philanthropy for this place and our foundation, contextualized in the wider advancement perspective, is great. And again, we're a relatively small team. There's 40 of us, and some teams have 400 and some have, four. So I understand that scope, but
Right.
I really have enjoyed the chance to be a VP advancement in a public school setting, which is my first time in that space, which
Right.
is so different and so interesting. But we have
Right.
scale. We have scale here that I never had before, and so that's a responsibility and a challenge. So yeah, I mean, ironically, the job I'm in now is the one I'm enjoying the most. And now I sat on a number two chair for a long time and felt like I was a pretty successful fundraiser and sort of executive number two, but the chance to be serving in the VP advancement spot has been just an honor and a privilege, and I'm really enjoying it.
Yeah. Tell me, if you don't mind, what the key difference to you is between the number two spot
Yeah,
in these higher ed organizations, because
yeah,
maybe it's not similar outside of higher ed, but the number two role and the number one role.
yeah.
What's the biggest difference?
Yeah, I mean the images you think about, like coaching, it's in basketball, like it's one chair over, head coach is the number one, assistant coach, but it means a lot, right? So in
Yeah.
higher ed space, that I've seen at least, it's being on the cabinet, and that's the different, as number two in advancement, however the size might be, in a fundraiser as a key job, you're thinking about assets and raising money, and it's a function that you're doing every day. As a member of the cabinet, it's a whole different game. You're running the university. I mean, there are 6 vice presidents here, a president, chief of staff, and assistant chief of staff. 9 of us are very close. I'm really enjoying those conversations. A lot of time spent in cabinet space together.
Yeah.
Our president here, Tomas Morales, has been wonderful in the sense that I did think, actually, coming in, that okay, I'll sit in cabinet, and my vertical is fundraising, foundation, external stuff. Do that, and frankly, leave the provost alone, leave operations alone. Not at all. It's actually been really interesting to me to be. I felt from day one like I'm a full-fledged member of the cabinet, and we're talking about real university level things in the CSU, complex as we might understand these days in all kinds of ways. And I'm in that game, so I don't feel at all like I'm just the foundation person or just the development person.
Right. Right.
It's been really, really, really cool. I'm actually working on my EDD in ed here at CSUSB now, which has been interesting as well. So I'm thinking more and more about higher ed leadership and how it
Wow.
works. And it's been fun to apply my general sort of leadership interest with the higher ed space, which is, we'll call it chaotic in the moment, possibly, but
Sure.
chaos leads to opportunities too. People need leadership now more than ever with what's going on around in the country. So yeah, it's been really interesting difference to be on cabinet and have that responsibility and that new team for me, and then come back to advancement and be that conduit
Yep.
and be able to help our team be stronger.
Yeah, no, I get it. From the leadership positions that I've had, one of the most compelling and interesting and exciting aspects is being in the room where it happens. Right?
Yeah.
And once you get the taste for that,
Yeah.
it's hard to go back and not have that ability to influence decision making. So I totally get it. I wanted to talk a little bit about mentors. I'm always fascinated by the people that help leaders grow into the leaders they are. And I'd love to just have you reflect on a person or two that made a substantial impact in your life, and what it was that they
Yeah.
did or how they influenced you.
Hardest question you've asked me, and I'll just prep for this, is that one. I mean, and as I asked you, who do you choose, right, in a career? But
Yeah,
so
right.
a couple names popped in. I think about it chronologically. And I think about LMU, where I worked early as a young person, and Maria Kelly, who was just a graceful, wonderful person in a leadership spot. And then I came to Redlands, and Jim Appleton, who's been a mentor for a long time, incredible president, and taught me about follow-up. Nita
Interesting.
West, who came later on and taught me about grace, and Jeff Martinez, my dear friend, who's with the longtime AD at Redlands, but talked about hospitality. And when you went to Courier Gymnasium, it's like going to Jeff and Susan's house. I mean, it is just, I
Mm,
always felt welcomed, and that was
interesting.
special to me. I think about Hiram Chodosh at CMC, just the energy and the brilliance and leadership that he represents. I'm here, Tomas Morales, as this place is an anchor of the region, and how he does that every day and cares for
Wow.
students that he does. So yeah, I mean, I could go on for half hour of names like this of people I've learned from, and
Great.
I'm trying to like take bits. And but you heard me, there was different charisms for each person, right? So that I would think about in their experience. So we all bring different things to it. But yeah, it's
Yes.
the biggest success I feel like I have in my besides my family and my wife and my kids and my
Right.
faith is my life, is my network. And at good times I pay into my network to help others. On my own challenging times, I tapped into my network to help me. And so it's the most important asset you've got as a professional, I think, is this network. And you and I have been longtime network friends and in the space, and it's just so important. And so I do a lot of work these days with our students here to help them increase their social capital. And I was the first to go to college in my family. I didn't have really any social capital. I go to Loyola Marymount as a young, clueless undergraduate, and people opened doors for me. Janice Burrell, Maria, others opened doors that helped
Right.
me step into. I didn't have even the handle of those doors. And so
That's great.
I've done a lot of work recently thinking about social capital, and of our student body, 4 to 5 are first to go to college in their families. Most are from this region, the two counties. They don't have the access to these doors. So I feel like
Yes.
it's our job and responsibility to get those doors open. So alumni and parents and regional leaders, like,
Love it.
I'm going to be active. So I'm a LinkedIn maniac, as you know, so I'm always doing LinkedIn connections, but I want to help our students have chances. These are hardworking young people, and how can we help them?
Right. Right. Well, that idea of social capital is an enormous outgrowth of higher education, as much as what you learn um,
Yeah,
in the class, right?
yeah,
And sometimes I think that's ignored, and people
yeah,
dismiss higher education without thinking clearly about
yeah.
all elements of what it
And
brings.
I do think that, obviously in higher ed space, as we sit today, and there's a lot of pushback against the humanities, and it's not going to get you a
Blah,
job.
blah, blah from my
Exactly.
perspective.
English,
Yeah.
English
Are
major
you kidding
here,
me? Come on.
English major here, but undergrad MBA on top of that. But disagree with that 1,000%. But I think what they're not saying, right, is that it's not about those skills not helping you with jobs. Because frankly, English major helps you with your last job, not your first job as much. So that's a whole other blah blah blah. But it's social capital. That's what I think that we're missing, that the network you might have to be able to have a chance to get that first job. I mean, it's always been about the network. It always will be about the network. And if AI bots are stopping things going through to places, if I know you and can reach out and say, "Hey, I know this young person. They're really great. They've been in my office for a year working. Give them a chance."
Yeah.
That's a difference maker still, right? That's social capital 101. And I love doing it. It brings me joy, but also it helps our students get real jobs, right?
Yeah.
And then that's social mobility, which is the whole other conversation we get into, which is important also.
Yeah. Topic for another
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah.
Right?
Yes, yes.
I think social capital is a great topic for me to explore, for Fulcrum to explore as well, the importance of social capital. Yeah. Speaking of social capital, that's kind of a leadership concept in a way. I'd love to hear any thoughts that you have about your own leadership philosophy, particularly, how it relates to fundraising or the work that you're doing. What would you say are elements of your own personal
Yeah.
leadership philosophy?
I was giving this some real thought, and as I thought about people I mentioned before and others, what do I look for in leaders? I look for authentic behaviors,
Mm,
and I look for servant leaders. And so I really tried to do those things. They come naturally to me anyway, but I've really tried to express those values in everything I do. Stories. I know we can both share stories of leaders that in moments decide to be part of a solution and get dirty with it, or decide to have someone else do it. And I think those opportunities come along. One came up a week ago that I think I did a good job of jumping into, but they come fast, and you have to decide in a moment: Are you a servant leader or are you an aloof leader? And I think, it's really important to be a servant leader, and then figure out what are other things you can delegate, and you can't be in every weed. But I do think it's really critical. So those are the values I think about a lot when I'm treated as such. And I think the dynamic of power, the higher someone's positional power, in my opinion, and the more of a servant they act like or are, the more powerful that is, the impact there, right? When the president of the university, chancellor of a system, and the higher up someone is on the chain is that much more human and cares, oh my gosh. I mean, it's an absolute game changer to lead with love in the CSU, right, which is a state institution. Like, I use the word love. I believe in it. I want to show my team this, and there's ways to get the job done, but we can do it in a loving way that helps people develop. And so, yeah, authentic and servant are the two words that really mean the most to me. But the last thing I'll say is also a systems thinker, right? So I know myself enough to know now from my own discernment that I'm going to lean toward people. I forget the chart. The one axis is around sort of your people orientation. The other axis is your task orientation, whatever that's called. I used to think too much about the people side and get distracted because I want to do well there. Except I realized recently that I'm naturally good at that. I care about people. I just do.
Right.
So focus on the task side then. So I really, especially coming here, I really turned that screw internally with myself to be more task oriented. I'm never going to be a raging jerk. I'm just not. I mean, that's not what I do. I make other mistakes. So, I can focus more on tasks and delegate and follow up and make sure we're doing good things, knowing that the people side is there. Now, if I were the opposite, I might ask myself to think about, if I just were a task person, maybe I have to work on the other axis. But I think I know myself enough to know that now. So I'm trying to build those systems. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. No, I think that's good thinking and thoughtful advice for leaders out there to discern for themselves where are they on that axis and what do they need to focus on. I just completed a white paper on blind spots being sort of a way to create greater leadership strength, if you identify those blind spots. And, self-awareness is important to be able to
the fantastic Advancement Academy I was part of a couple of years ago, a great program, and a self-assessment was done, and then I answered questions, and then my teammates got questions about me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that first moment, opening that little booklet up, and it's all the stages of denial. That's not true. Then you have to take a second and then discern it and think about it, and like, oh, maybe I am not the best listener in the world. Oh, maybe that's a really powerful leadership activity. I mean, if you have done a self-assessment with others as well on your team, oh man, it's really powerful. But you have to be open to it because it's hard at first.
Yeah. I've responded to a lot of inquiries about 360-degree reviews that have been initiated by board chairs of all people and CEOs and others who 20 years ago would have run away from such things, but now it's more welcomed, which is great. I think it's an advancement in our sector and in leadership generally, so that's great. I'm worried that we're going to run out of time if we don't jump into the heart of today's conversation. So let's get after it. I've got a dozen questions I think I want to ask about this. So let's get started with this. You often describe planned giving as a celebration of asset-based philanthropy. Why is that framing so important, especially for organizations that may still see planned giving as technical or intimidating?
Yeah, and the way my own journey worked out, early career at Loyola Marymount, director of annual giving at the end of my time there, but dabbling in planned giving there a bit, and then come to Redlands, University of Redlands, and so Redlands a very high alumni affinity. People really, the alumni base love the place deeply. Not the world's batch of highest net worth individuals necessarily. A lot of teachers in the old days, teachers and preachers in the old days, but but lots of millionaires next door. That's a great old book that everyone should read too.
Right.
And so got working with these really people that love the place so much. And I found us doing a lot of dialogues about their love for the university, and they're very loyal annual donors, even leadership annual donors. but
Yeah.
there'll be a block between that and, asset-based plan giving, and it'd be on the donor side. They say, well, I just do what I do, right? I'd love to do that, but I can't. I heard a lot of those dialogues with people that care about the place. And so I sort of early there framed this question of, or thought around a leap from donor to philanthropist, and how could we do that? And it just sort of was happening. I was there for 17 years, so I had a chance to really have a laboratory to play in and do this well, and had freedom to do these things. And so that became kind of this question, like, from how does that loyal donor behavior become something more impactful? And so more names and books to throw out, but I read a book 20 plus years ago from Bill Sturdivant, The Artful Journey. And I'm not paid by ICG. I don't get commissions on this book, I swear, but I buy a lot of copies of that book. I've probably bought 100 copies of that book over my career and given them to everybody I work with. We did it here, Redlands, CMC. I mean, I do it all the time, board members, because that book, and I went and saw Bill speak, and those sessions are still very valuable. I send people to those sessions on my teams to this day. Basic sort of move management 101. But what I learned from that book and him was a sort of concept of philanthropy as, annual, special, ultimate. And, the framework around the three circles in that space, and, ultimate gifts, annual gifts being, X, special gift, a major gift being maybe 20X, but an ultimate gift being maybe 100X. And,
Love it.
the biggest gift someone might ever give. And I think, with Redlands, it was a lot of real people. I mean, not that many, high net worth in the context of our alumni population, but millionaires, right? And so how do we help them become philanthropists? And we did. That was the cool part. It actually worked.
Right.
I saw
That's
it work,
awesome.
person by person, family by family, and it was just really beautiful and fun and interesting to see regular people do these cool things that are about a place they care about, and students in the future, people never going to meet, planting trees under which they'll never feel the shade. I mean, it's just like,
No, I
love
love
it,
it.
right? Yeah.
What I love is this idea of the fundraiser telling their prospects, their relationships. I really feel like my job is to help you become a philanthropist, right?
Self-actualize. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And experience the joy that comes from being a philanthropist, because I don't think people understand how much joy there is in strategically giving your money to organizations that have impact. So it's great.
And part of it's our field. Listen, now I'm going to really be honest about this on the internet. So here you go, internet. You can have this. We've over MBA'd the field, I think. I have an MBA, so you have to have goals. I'm not suggesting a free form Montessori approach where there's no goals and we just sort of do it along. I'm not saying that. However, I do think that bad management in philanthropy leads to bad philanthropy and these sort of artificial goals. I want my team externally focused, out seeing the people. We always joke about kiss the baby, shake the hands, whatever you call it, but be out as ambassadors and exactly ask questions like that are authentic and real. And not everyone will do them. But I think they matter. And, that three circle thing, we worked at Redlands, we designed a little one-sheeter, and we would take it to people. And this is, I'll plug my good friends at forimpact.org, the old Sudis company, Sudis Group under Tom Sudis, who passed away. It's Steve Elder and Nick Fellers in that group. But I learned from them the sort of sales mindset when I was young, and I've kept it. I do a lot of sort of, I'm not work for them either, but boy, you're in sales, get over it kind of stuff. Like, yeah, we're in philanthropic sales. So if you don't like it, you're in the wrong line of work, in my opinion. So,
Right.
we would do a lot of work with donors at a first meeting and talk through annual gift, special gift, ultimate gift at our first conversation. People are like, no, you didn't. Yes, we did. And worst case scenario, if they've given before, you're thanking for annual, you're opening up a dialogue about special, and you're wondering about long-term. Are we in your plans? Are you thinking about the future? I mean, whatever it might be. And if you got no, or some negative answer in all three, well, then you buy lunch, you come back, you write it up, and that person is, at this moment, no longer really someone to think about as a prospect. Fine. on we go. So just kind
Yes.
of, again, authentic leadership as a style, authentic philanthropy as a style. We're not calling them just to get to know them. It's not true. Disingenuous. So I don't
Yes.
like, no, it's not true. We're in sales. We want you to make a really incredible gift to a place you care about. I hope we can make it happen over time. If we can't, no problem. I'm not on commission. It's fine. But let's come on. Don't play games. People are it's too smart for that. It's disrespectful of people, I think, when you sort of play these games with them. I don't like it. So I've always wired my teams, my sales teams, to be transparent, honest, and truthful about the work we do. They should be honored by this work. It's honorable work. And better than anybody else, Chris. This is your whole family, and this is what we do. Like, this is good, so don't be ashamed of it.
I love it. Yeah, great advice. You mentioned at Redlands that 17-year journey, which is shocking for me to acknowledge the fact that I think we've known each other more than 17 years. But anyway,
Yeah.
the concept, it seems, of this plannual giving was developed there. Is that the origin story?
No, yeah, I'll give you the story. Yeah. So the
Okay,
actual, I have a CSPG certification, which I'm very proud of, from Cal
love
State
it.
Long Beach, and everyone who wants to do plan giving should be a CSPG. No problem with that. It's a great program. Patience Boudreau and I were getting our CSPGs together. Patience is now up in Northern California doing great plan giving work, but she came to Redlands as she, when you do annual giving, sometimes you kind of know you're almost done with annual giving, which I love annual giving to my heart, but there's a point you're ready for something different. And so I said, please come from Trinity to Redlands, be annual giving director for a little bit with us. I need your help, and I'll get you ready to be a plan giving person. And so we did that, and it was
Nice.
awesome. Perfect. So we did this plannual giving thing as our practicum together for the CSPG program. And she was director of annual giving. I was AVP for fundraising and serving as director of plan giving as well at Redlands. And we just sort of had this really fun moment of flexibility and no one really telling us we can't do it. And we kind of just morphed things together. Now that was 2013. And so even in the last 13 years, it's different. I mean, plan giving has really changed. Back then, early 2000, 2010, 2012, a lot of director of plan giving were former lawyers. They weren't marketers. They were technicians, which I appreciate. And they were terrible at marketing. And so this was an idea about, let's take the skills of annual giving, horizontal marketing, spread the word, and apply it to plan giving and get more people in the game. I was called out to Russell James, the godfather of plan giving in the space, and his great work around research of this topic. And his work was around familial language in plan giving, 20 years ago, and how it works better than technical language. So we're chewing on that. And so our practicum was about, should there kind of be a mash together of annual giving and plan giving? And we were doing it that way at Redlands. It may not, it's already changed a lot since then. But we made it up, we think. I've looked around many times. I've never found anybody else do plannual giving. So we're calling it ours, me and Patience and I. So it's a made up thing, but it does, we'll talk more, but the link is annual giving behaviors lead to asset-based larger plan gifts that are really powerful. And if you divide them, you don't make that connection. If you connect them together, some really cool things can happen.
Yeah. What are the missed opportunities, I guess, when you treat them as separate strategies? What's been that experience for you, and why is it so important to have integration?
I mean, at one basic level, I also hate the pass off of donors, of people. Even the word prospect, I don't like, frankly.
Sure.
These are individuals or people that care about your institution. So,
that's right.
I've known them for a while, but I don't understand plan giving, so I'm going to give them off to someone else. I hate that. Let's not do that. I want the same person to get to know our donor, our philanthropist, and be their resource for annual giving, for their major gift, and for their plan gift. And when it gets too complex, we can get some help. But honestly, here's the non-secret secret. They often aren't that complex. 9 out of 10 gifts that are plan gifts or asset-based are simple. They're someone's 401k beneficiary, insurance policy, a simple will or living trust. It's not hard stuff. The really hard stuff, I mean, at this moment, the new tax law, if you're worth $30 million or more as a couple, That's going to ring some bells. Okay, I don't have very many of those in my world here or at Redlands, but there are some out there. Fine. Those folks have very savvy plans figured out already. They don't need me at all. In fact, I'm in the way. They're doing great things. I want to get to know them. Obviously, I'm not saying I don't have folks in that
Sure.
mindset in my mindset, but that's not the norm. The much bigger norm is people in that they're worth 3, 4, 5, 6 million. We're in California, so Redlands and even now CSUSB, the profile is they're in their 70s. They're either, at here like a CalPERS pensioner or a retired person. They maybe bought their house in the 60s, 70s, 80s. It's paid off. So they're all millionaires next door. So it's not about having assets. I mean, things happen, not everyone does, but in general, our prospect profile is someone that's worth, a couple million, $3 million. And then what? Now what? Right. And
Right.
we know from studies that most people just give to their families in their plans. I understand that, no problem. But I'll call out her name, Ruth Pierpoint Hogue, has passed away. Ruth is an alumna from Redlands and taught me a lot about this. She said basically, Redlands, I have 3 kids. Redlands is my 4th kid. And we're dividing up instead of a third, dividing up a fourth, a fourth, a fourth, a fourth. I'm like, that was the most incredible educational moment for me as a young professional. I'm like, oh my gosh, I understand. Like the light shone. So if you listen to donors, they'll tell you this truth. And in that case, it was a wonderful scholarship gift that honored her and her family and is still there and is amazing. So
yeah. I think personally, I probably feel like my church relationship is my 4th child, right? For us as a family. So it resonates with me to think in those terms.
I mean, even that worst case scenario, we do this work, we evangelize for philanthropy, and someone doesn't give to us, they give to their church or their temple or whatever it might be. Amazing. I feel like that's good. We've done some good. Again, you can't over MBA that to score the fundraiser. Like that's not doesn't count. Right. Of course it does. It's the whole spirit of what we're trying to do.
Right. And I shouldn't say that, for me, I probably have 10 kids by my own logic because I
bet you do. Yeah.
I have so many organizations that I love, including my alma mater, which I won't mention. But anyway, let's talk about behavior, loyalty, research. One of the things I appreciate about your work is how clearly you connect research with real donor behavior. And I know your research shows that like only 2.3% of household wealth is held in cash. So many of the largest gifts include no cash at all, and the donors often increase their giving after making an estate commitment. What do these numbers tell us about how most organizations are fundraising today?
Yeah, well, first call out to Russell James. That's his data, not mine. I'm leveraging it like crazy. So, and Russell's stuff is all public. So please go to his site, encouragegenerosity.com, and check it all out. So that's all him. But yeah, I mean, that's been a couple of years of his work. I've been hearing at different conferences and his open source material. But yeah, you think about if you're chasing someone's checkbook, right? Or do you have checkbooks? Their debit account, right? The wealth of Americans is not held there. It's held everywhere else but there. You think about anyone watching this or think about their own sort of portfolio, we can be reductive in this space. Like assets minus liabilities equals net worth, right? You don't have to be Warren Buffett to do that math, right? All of us have a set of assets, we have liabilities, and we have a number that's net worth, and it changes every day, right? How things play. So,
and 100% of those people in that scenario wish they had more cash.
Well, I don't know about that. 100% are going to die. I'll tell you that. That's a true fact. I'm not sure because a lot of them know that cash is, is conservative and flat. I mean,
you're right. I'm sure there are some that think, man, I've got more than I need.
Or they want in the marketplace to grow. Yeah. So they want money to work for them. So I think that once every asset-based gift would be in some version of a plan gift. Now you could argue these things like, well, someone's gift out of their IRA is really annual gift. Fine.
Right.
There's a planning. You can't just do it with a debit card or a credit card. There's a little plan moment. So again, that's why I actually like asset-based more than planned, because it's what's the asset characterized by. Good. Yeah, if you get, but so back to the Redlands example for a second, that profile was someone that was socially moderate, fiscally conservative. If they lived in Orange County, in our world, it was Yorba Linda, not or Villa Park, not Costa de Casa. It was a group of people that were, relatively conservative financially, and so they would want to do bigger things. But people tell me I'd like to, but I can't because their assets were illiquid assets, right? And that's where someone in our work can change the game by saying something as simple as, no problem, I don't want it now. In fact, I don't want it for a long time because I want you to live a long time. But can we make a plan that your annual gift could be perpetuated with something from long-term plans? And that's a piece I wanted to come back to. At a very simple way, every dollar of annual giving is like $25 of endowment. Sort of. I'm oversimplifying that, but it's true,
you're right?
At a 4% spend rate, it's not that far, right?
It's perfection. That's the way I want everyone to think about it. Like the dollar that I give you,
right,
would require $25 of endowment to equal.
Exactly. And that 25 later on will provide the dollar. So here's the deal. Do you want your dollar to live on for all time, coming our way? If the answer is no, frankly, people might be like, no, I'm good because I live my life, done my thing during my lifetime. I'm going to give you, and when I'm gone, I want it to go to my kids and grandkids.
Yeah,
no problem. I got you.
Legacy is not the thing I'm trying to create.
Right. In that moment. But that's not the normal answer I got. Most of I got the answer was, that sounds good. What do we do? And then that's what they think about lawyers, complex. And that's why I was like, no, let's be simple about this. My good friend, John Servine, I'll call him out, helped me think about looking for philanthropic intent. And that's been a game changer for me too in my career. If we can figure out philanthropic intent, the rest is just details, right? That's why I don't want to pass people off, because every coffee, every lunch, every time together, you're learning more about their intent. I love my church. I don't like my new pastor. The new president I think is great. I love football, whatever it might be. That's things you learn. And so what I learned in this work when planning was taking that loyal donor. Do you want that annual gift to live on for all time? If yes, we can do this because they had the assets, right? It's simply a matter of deciding the share, like Ruth taught me about. It wasn't about sacrifice. It wasn't about any of that. Most people that did gifts like that, more would come than we thought would come because they're frankly not sacrificial to the person in that moment. Maybe they are to later on generations, I guess. But if one of those kids is cranky at us because they got less of a share, baloney. I don't buy that. That's just being greedy. So I think they're taken care of.
Yeah. Well, I think the fact that you're inviting people to think about endowment, let's say, in this way is so important. I just love the idea of talking to people about how important their annual support has been and how important it could be to have that support in perpetuity. And here's how you can make that happen. Right? So,
and pretty simple in the big scheme of things. It's
so simple.
Yeah, it's not hard.
And it doesn't have to negatively impact their lifestyle one bit while they're living, right? So
not at all. Yeah.
It's awesome. So I'm going to skip ahead one question because I want to know more about the three circles, right? And talk about the three circles. You use those three circles of philanthropy to help teams think more holistically about donors. How should organizations be thinking about donors who sit at the intersection of loyalty, leadership, and legacy?
Yeah, when I do some of this speaking in other ways around sort of external thinking, I bring this up too. And so I'm just trying to help, those in philanthropic sales. What I think the three circles does, it gives a common language for philanthropy, whether you are effectively, working for a very small organization or working for one of the biggest. It doesn't really matter. Everybody in some version is raising annual support for now. And you raise it and you spend it. So we're thinking checkbook or debit account. Everyone's after special kinds of gifts that are going to do something we can't currently do. So maybe that's 10 to 20 times whatever the annual gift might be. And frankly, if you took the three circles and then the last one's ultimate, asset-based legacy giving, which is important, you could actually argue that everybody plays in the annual giving circle, right? The students for senior class gift to, everybody every year, $5. I mean, size is commensurate with ability, right? So small gifts, big gifts, everyone plays. I argue everybody plays in the ultimate circle too, although I understand people lose their assets, bad things happen. So it's not really true. But in general, more than we think often do are in play for ultimate. It's the special circle. People think that fundraising is all about major gift fundraising. And honestly, even the places I've worked that are pretty affluent, I mean, what percent of alumni of a given place could make we'll call it six-figure gift, $100,000. So that's $20,000 a year for 5 years or 100 grand at one time. How many even the most affluent schools we work with, what percent of the population could do that? Not that many. I mean, right now, I mean, not half, give away that kind of money. So I think
Annually.
the world, yeah, I mean, 20 annually or 100 at one spot, that's a big number, right? So I think people think that all of our work is that special gift space. What wine do they like? What's their dog's name? That's important. We do a lot of that work, but
Right.
It's the smallest proportional circle. We have a lot more people in play in the other two. And if we can connect annual and ultimate, well, then that's the game changer where they can go from donor to philanthropist in really mutually beneficial ways, right? That's what I want them to understand. So, loyalty, I think that loyalty matters. And so if you can figure out who's 20 years in a row or of any size transaction, so $5 counts like $1 million, who's giving you gifts every year? That's really critical to me that there's more of that now, but that was missing for a while. Leadership, obviously, whatever level of leadership giving you run is important. Take care of them. And then, legacy piece, who's got you in their plans if someone tells you they're sending you $1 million when they die, until it comes, you don't have it.
Mm-hmm.
And so every day they're a prospect for conversation to stay connected with them. I mean, until you've got it, you don't really have that gift. So I like those three L's, and I've done some work with some teams you should run a list of all three of those groups and then who's on all three criteria. We did it when I got here. We had 7 households that were on all three lists, basically. So they should know they're on all three lists, right? Some of this is that transparency I talked about before, and lists are going to be different. So I get it, but figure out, how to differentiate a little bit in terms of your most loyal, your most leadership annual, and then your legacy, of course, and then figure out who's on 2 or 3 of those lists.
Okay, that's great. You've described this loyalty, leadership, legacy experiment and have a ribbon game. Can you tell me just a little bit about that and what it's helped you understand?
Sure. Another call out, my good friend Laura Gallardo was our incredible partner in donor relations for a long time at Redlands. We developed, again, when you're left to your own volition, you do a lot of fun things like this. So we played a ribbon game. We had an event tied to homecoming that was basically if you were a volunteer, a donor of some sort, if you were getting a ribbon for some sort, you got invited to this event. So we had an area, a garden full of only people with at least one ribbon. So we're trustee, leadership donor, legacy donor, loyal annual donor, classroom union volunteer, alumni board member. There's probably 8 or 9 different colored ribbons. I get it from going to case conference. You see the speaker ribbons. You're just who's that? So we just played a game, and we did a game where everyone got, if you had more than one ribbon, you have this long line of ribbons. And the president said, all right, who's got one? Thank you. Everyone had one. Who's got 2? Who's got 3? And we got to think someone had 5 or 6, right? And they were the winner. They got applause. It was a game, but it was meant to be a visual representation of behavior. And it was. And so we could look around and see these ribbons. And, donors don't know what these groups mean. So you're in the Horton Society. That means you've made a plan. I mean, we're doing instructive, dialogue. I also got it from Disneyland. Our friends at Disney are good at this, right? You walk in the park, right. You're wearing the happy birthday badge. You get 50, happy birthday, Prince, good job, first visit, whatever. They're doing the same thing. And their cast members are taught to acknowledge it intentionally. And that's what I like. And so a lot of the work I do with my teams are around intention and trying to make people know that we know. My friend Bob Rudensky always says, they know that we know that they know that we know, like, that we're all really being clear that there's a thing you've done and I want to honor it and celebrate it. So that's kind of where that ribbon game comes from. So anybody can do this. I mean, it's
I
an
love it.
event, but also just they should know why they are special in those different criteria.
Yeah, that's so great. I love that. I makes me want to create some ribbons of my own for even just parties that I throw.
Yeah, happy to help.
It's so good. It's so good. All right, I have two more questions as we wrap up. You know that so many organizations think that plan giving, asset-based, whatever you want to call it, is too complex. Now we might call it gift planning too, just too complex, something that they need to focus on later. So what mindset shift has to happen first for plannual giving to really take hold?
Yeah, it's funny. I still see that as a reality, and it drives me crazy. I think so. I joke about being an evangelist for those. So I think what we need more of is just a level setting on, maybe it's a three circles, like simplicity, reductive thinking, call it what you want to call it, but it's, simple things. I've literally, when I talk to donors, I'll say things like I told you a little bit ago: assets minus liabilities equals net worth. That's a number. It's not about, doesn't define who you are. It's a number, but it has a power to it. And so how do we think about where that might go? So, the more people on my team that are thinking that way as well, there are complex asset-based plan gifts that need technical support. I'm not suggesting they're not, and they're out there. And then no problem. We have help for that.
Right.
We have one of the best counsels in the country at our disposal, the little CSUSB. Amazing. So in a year and a half, I haven't had to use him really much for any of those. I don't have that pipeline here. But when I do, I know who to call. Otherwise, we're just all day long talking about 401k plans, 403b plans, insurance policies. A lot of folks in our world have, CalPERS pensions that are generous, frankly. So thinking about philanthropic intent, that's the game. If you have intent to help make your gift be perpetual, then we'll figure it out and we'll talk to your people and we'll figure all the details out. That's where I think leading with technical is the problem. It's never mind, too complex. I don't want that. So I want my entire team comfortable in that space. We have a training, in fact, next week with a partner friend of ours. I want more folks in my team to be there, not just the fundraising staff, alumni team, events team, everybody. Just to hear what we're talking about. It's super simple. Philanthropic intent, what might someone want? What problem might someone want to solve through a long-term gift? Like, nothing technical. We can save technical for later. So I'm banging that drum all the time. I do think the annual plannual thing is helpful because it makes it simple. I'm on a couple boards like you are, and there's one I'm part of that there's these wonderful women that are part of a little guild, and they're there like stuffing envelopes, and they're all this profile. And I'm like, we should go talk to them about plan giving for this organization. Like, why would we not do that? And people are like, oh, should we get a lawyer? I'm like, no. I mean, no offense to lawyers, but no, I got it. Like, let's have a coffee and just, churches, our church, same thing. Like, let's talk about, long-term gifts that way. We're doing, our church a capital campaign as we speak. But I was listened to by our pastor to not come in hard on the cash only, right? We need cash for the new building. It's sure. By the way, Chris, it's actually going up. It's amazing. 20 years later, it's actually going up. Incredible.
I know the church we're talking about.
I know you do. It's in God's time. But he was good about going and talking to our best donors in the parish about annual, offertory, and special of this building, and deferred and long-term. So it was really, I felt like it was really helpful, because that's a mistake people make. They hone in on the one of the circles. So yeah, it's holistic. It's complete. It's human. And so I think that's, again, hard to MBA those numbers. But go see people. Go talk about the university. Go talk about what they care about. There are a lot of people out there that are millionaires next door that want to help our organization, that are not thinking that way. They don't see themselves that way. They see themselves as a fixed income donor. And yet they're sitting there with no kids. And they are an asset-based prospect to help do incredible things if they change their own mindset. So we're just helping them do that. I'm not selling. I am selling, but I'm just selling mindset.
Yeah. Well, they don't even know the mindset to have, to your point about them seeing themselves. Well, I'm just an annual donor. Well, great. I'd love to see you as a special donor. A special donor, what's that? Let's not talk about major gifts. Let's talk about
Yeah.
hey, let's talk about something special that you can do at some point, right? And then I'd love to explore you being able to make that ultimate gift.
Yeah, Chris, you're hired. I'm going to hire you. So, by the way,
Yeah,
the best
good,
the best
good.
question on the special circle, by the way, is, hey, if I had $100,000 and I gave it to you, but you had to give it back to me for use at CSUSB, where do you want me to put it in the foundation? What do you want me to do with that money? So it's not about money. It's about intent. So I'll give you all my secrets.
So
That's
good.
great question.
Yeah.
But it's
Love
real
that
too. Like how they might say, I'd burn it first because of blah, 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 whatever. So at least you're learning there too. You're always learning about someone's mindset.
That's funny. Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I would rather tear it up than give it to you because
Right.
blank.
You're gonna waste it and it's gonna do
whatever.
you're too woke. Anyway, I would give it back to you.
Thank you.
In a heartbeat. And you know what I would say? I would say, you know better than I do where it's most needed.
Oh, so you're well trained in this word.
Put it to good use. Put it to good use. All right, last question. And it's this. How can annual fund teams begin really planting seeds for asset-based and legacy giving in ways that feel natural, respectful, and donor-centered?
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot more is happening now than it was a decade ago. I mean, most places have little bits and starts of tell us about planning gift on their annual giving stuff. A lot more of that. I think if I'm not doing this now at a place that's listening to this, whoever oversees plan giving and who sees annual giving, have a coffee and just talk about this a bit. There should be mutual benefit. The plan giving person ought to have some insights and help from a better marketer, theoretically, and annual giving ought to have better gifts from the plan gift side. And Russell, again, researched this that said that when people make a deferred gift to you commitment, their annual giving goes up, right? So that ought to be a mutually beneficial moment that, we can never ask our society members for annual gifts. Are you kidding me? Of course you're a dummy. If you're not, you're making a huge mistake. Like they're giving out of their life assets and their work. Why would they not give now? And in fact, if their gift reversed earlier, if their gift is X for the future, the 4% of that X, why don't we ask them for that or some version of it to do the thing now that we will do when they're dead? Because you know what? It's a lot less fun when you're dead. So let's start it, right? If you can, Redlands, we had some flex. We could do a Redlands Fund scholarship for people that we're going to have long-term gifts come later. We basically front-loaded the scholarship on us. We're giving the money away anyway to students. Like it was coming out of the budget.
Oh,
so let's call them an endowed scholar. I know some schools can't do that. I appreciate that, but we did, and it was good because it let the donor feel the benefit.
Oh, it's out of the box. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, again, everyone's different, but more can do it than they want to. They don't want to, or they're told they can't. But of course you can. It's your stewardship game. You're doing it because you want to help that donor feel that connection.
So good, Ray. This has been an incredibly thoughtful and practical conversation. What I appreciate most is how you frame Plannual giving, not as a tactic in fundraising, but as a kind of reflection on how deeply we understand and honor our donors. And I just want to thank you for your leadership, your generosity in sharing your thinking and continuing to challenge our sector to see asset-based philanthropy as an opportunity rather than an obstacle. So thank you, Ray. And thank you all for listening to today's Mastering Fundraising podcast. If you found today's conversation valuable, please like, follow, and share the show with colleagues and peers across the nonprofit sector. And while you're there, be sure to check out our other podcasts, Lead for Good and The Nonprofit Edge, where we interview the most competent experts in the field and let them share their leadership, governance, strategy, thought leadership, knowledge, and how it impacts the future of our nonprofit work. So until next time, keep leading with purpose and keep mastering fundraising. Thanks all.
Thank you for joining this episode of Mastering Fundraising. We hope the conversation was helpful and invite you to like and subscribe to this podcast for more conversations with extraordinary nonprofit and fundraising leaders. To learn more about Fulcrum Nonprofit Leadership, please visit us on the web at fulcrumleader.com. To learn more about the 5-Tool Fundraiser, please visit us at 5toolfundraiser.com. We want to hear from you. Please share your thoughts and ideas with us at hello@fulcrumleader.com. Thank you for the important work you do to make our world stronger. We look forward to welcoming you back during a future podcast. In the meantime, take care and be well.